The Janitor's Secret: How a Humble Cleaner Saved a Billion-Dollar Empire. Before we begin, tell us in the comments which city you're watching from. And at the end, don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10. Enjoy. Chloe Miller was cleaning the CEO's office, humming a reggaeton song playing on her phone. She spun around with the cloth in her hands, swayed her hips a little, and laughed to herself. If someone saw this, I'd either get fired or win an award on the same day. She was so lost in the music that she didn't hear the elevator stop on the floor, but she did hear the distinct sound of expensive shoes on the polished floor. Chloe froze. Her eyes widened. No, not now," she whispered, turning down the volume on her phone and looking toward the door. When she saw the man in the hallway, her heart jumped to her throat. Alexander Vance, the CEO, the boss, the man with the most expensive tie in the Sterling Tower. Chloe dropped the broom, tripped on the bucket, and nearly fell backward. "I'm dreaming. This is a nightmare," she whispered, breathing heavily. With reflexes straight out of an action movie, she dove under the massive mahogany desk. Alexander walked in, not noticing anything strange. He placed his briefcase on the desk and pressed a button on the phone. "Give me an update now," he ordered, firmly. A tense voice responded on the other end. "Horizon Enterprises canceled the contract, and Sterling Holdings did too. 2 cancellations in 2 weeks, the voice said, filled with tension. "That sinks our whole quarter. Investors are already talking. They want to see changes." Alexander leaned back in his chair and was quiet for a moment. Chloe crouched under the desk, held in her nervous laughter, and tried not to breathe. She couldn't believe she was hearing all of this. "One more loss and there's nothing left," he muttered, mostly to himself. "We need to act fast, sir." Alexander ended the call. He tossed the phone onto the desk and rubbed his face with both hands. He looked tired, frustrated, worried. He stood up and walked to the window. He stood there in silence for a few seconds. Then he said quietly, "If I fall, I'll fall alone." Then he picked up his briefcase and left the room, closing the door behind him. Chloe stayed under the desk, frozen. "Congratulations, Chloe. You almost had a heart attack, and now you're an accidental corporate spy." She slowly got up, still trying to process what just happened. The CEO of Vance Innovations, the most respected man in the company, was desperate, and no one knew. She looked at the papers on the desk. Numbers, contracts, red graphs. She didn't understand everything, but it was clear the company was in trouble. On impulse, she left the office and walked to reception. She grabbed a notepad and a blue pen. She went back and carefully sat in the CEO's chair. For a brief moment, she took a deep breath. "You've lost it, Chloe. Completely lost it," she wrote in strong handwriting. "Cut losses by renegotiating the contract with the Western branch. Use Clause 13B, staggered delivery over 120 days. Saves 18%, and buys time to fix the cash flow." At the end, she added, "Sometimes the solution comes from where no one expects." She folded the paper carefully and placed it under the monitor. Then she stood up, put the chair back in place, grabbed her bucket, and walked out of the office like nothing happened. But deep down, she knew she had just crossed a line. The next morning, Alexander arrived early at the office, visibly exhausted. He left his jacket on the chair, turned on the computer, and saw the folded note in the corner of the desk. He picked up the paper, curious. He read it, frowned, read it again. The clause mentioned was real, rarely used, but valid. It could work. He called Olivia. "Did anyone come in here last night?" She checked the records, just the cleaning crew. "No one else, sir." Alexander returned to his desk, the note still in his hands. He sat down slowly, staring at the paper. There was no signature, no clues, just a solution. And for the first time in weeks, he felt something he thought was gone. Hope. Alexander spent the whole next day obsessed with the mystery note. Every employee walking down the hall became a suspect. He studied the handwriting, looked for clues, even asked Olivia to check the access logs again. "Are you sure only the cleaning crew was here?" he asked for the third time. "Absolutely, Mr. Vance. The system records all access cards. Only authorized EcoClean staff entered the building after 10 p.m. Alexander shook his head, frustrated. He implemented the suggestion from the note, and surprisingly, the renegotiation with the Western branch worked perfectly. The 18% savings were real, and the cash flow was already improving. Whoever this person was, they knew business like few others. Chloe arrived for another night of work, with a stomach full of nerves. She couldn't stop thinking about what she had done. It was pure madness, but part of her felt proud that her suggestion had worked. "You seem different today," said Olivia, her best friend and co-worker, as they organized the cleaning supplies. "More cheerful?" "Don't be silly." Chloe brushed it off, but she couldn't hide her smile. When she got to Alexander's office, he wasn't there. Chloe worked as usual, but she couldn't resist taking a look at the papers on his desk. She saw reports showing the numbers improving after the renegotiation. Her strategy had saved millions. Her heart raced. If a simple suggestion had such a big impact, maybe she could help even more. Chloe remembered a plot from the show Corporate Hearts, where the main character saved her father's company by diversifying investments. She grabbed another sheet of paper and wrote, "Consider partnerships with sustainable technology companies. The green market grows 20% a year. Vance Innovations could lead this sector before competitors catch on. Think solar energy for data centers, like in Green Empire, episode 47. Your favorite anonymous consultant." She left the note in the same place and left, feeling like a spy on a secret mission. The next morning, Alexander found the second note and grew even more curious. The reference to the show was odd, but the suggestion about sustainable technology made sense. He looked up the episode mentioned and found that a similar story really existed. "Olivia, I need a list of all employees with knowledge in management or economics," he said, determined. "That includes every department, sir, everyone. And I want to know who has access to the confidential financial reports." During the next week, Alexander received 3 more notes, each one more detailed than the last, always with references to Latin American soap operas and surprisingly effective strategies. The third note suggested a marketing campaign inspired by love and business, where the main company used emotional storytelling to win customers. The fourth idea involved restructuring departments based on Lorena of Commerce. All the strategies worked. In 2 weeks, Vance Innovations didn't just recover, it exceeded its quarterly goals. Alexander was desperate to find his mysterious consultant. "She knows our numbers better than some directors," he muttered to himself, studying the latest note. Then he had a brilliant idea, a senior consultant position. Olivia raised her eyebrows as Alexander dictated the job ad. "Exactly. Salary above market, exceptional benefits. I want to attract the best talent in the city," he explained, though inside he hoped to attract one specific person. The ad was posted on all the main job sites and newspapers. Alexander was sure his mysterious advisor wouldn't resist the offer. Now all he could do was wait. 3 weeks later, Vance Innovations held a party to celebrate the outstanding quarterly results. The event was on the top floor, turned into a ballroom with a city view. Chloe and the cleaning crew were called to work during the event, serving as support staff. She wore the best uniform she had and tried to stay unnoticed among the elegant guests. The party was in full swing when Chloe overheard a conversation that made her blood run cold. "He thinks he's very clever, but he won't last long in charge," said a cold, calculating female voice. Chloe hid behind a decorative column and saw a blonde woman, impeccably dressed, talking to a man in an expensive suit. "Genevieve, are you sure you want to do this?" the man asked, clearly uncomfortable. "Absolutely, Daniel. Alexander humiliated me by ending our engagement in front of all society. Now it's my turn to humiliate him," Genevieve replied, her eyes shining with revenge. "I sabotaged the Horizon Enterprises and Sterling Holdings contracts weeks ago. That was just the beginning." Chloe's eyes widened. Genevieve was behind the company's early financial problems. "And now?" Daniel asked. "Now I'll hit where it hurts the most. I have insider information about Vance Innovations' upcoming launches. I'll sell it to the competition and watch his empire crumble." Genevieve smiled coldly. "He'll lose everything, just like I lost my reputation. That's corporate crime, Genevieve." "It's justice," she answered. "Next week, when they launch the new sustainable product line, Apex Solutions will already have the exact same thing on the market. Alexander will look like a cheap copycat." Chloe felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. She had to warn Alexander, but how? She couldn't just show up and tell him she had overheard a conversation. Genevieve continued, "Daniel, you'll hack the system on Friday and give me access to the Green Future Project files. I have a contact at Apex who will pay very well for this information." "Genevieve, you owe me this. Don't forget who got you your IT job at Vance Innovations." The man sighed and nodded, clearly against his will. Chloe waited for them to walk away and quickly left the hall. She needed to act, and fast. That same night, after the party ended and everyone had left, Chloe returned to Alexander's office. Her hands trembled as she wrote, "Urgent. Beware of enemies close by. Someone inside is selling information to the competition. The Green Future Project is at risk. Check system access on Friday and monitor Daniel Kim from IT. A betrayal is being planned by someone you least expect. Trust only those who prove loyalty through actions, not words. Your anonymous guardian." Chloe folded the note carefully and placed it right on the computer keyboard, where Alexander couldn't miss it. As she left the office, her heart was pounding. This was no longer just about giving business advice. Now she was protecting the company and the man she had quietly come to admire. The next day, Alexander found the most serious note he'd ever received. The word "urgent" in capital letters made his stomach turn. He read it 3 times, analyzing every word. Daniel Kim. He knew Daniel. An efficient worker never caused trouble, but the mysterious consultant had never been wrong before. Alexander immediately called the head of security and set up discreet monitoring of the IT system. If someone was planning an attack, he would be ready. As he put the note away in the drawer with the others, Alexander murmured, "Whoever you are, you're saving me in ways you can't imagine." The hunt for the mysterious consultant had become more than just professional curiosity. It was a matter of the company's survival. And somewhere on the lower floors of the building, Chloe continued her nightly routine. Unaware she had become the secret guardian of the Vance Empire. Chloe was finishing cleaning the bathroom on the 15th floor when Olivia appeared running, out of breath, and holding her phone. "Chloe, you need to see this right now!" she shouted, forgetting completely they were on the clock. "Olivia, keep your voice down. If the supervisor hears us, we'll get fired," Chloe whispered. But her friend's expression was so intense, she dropped the cleaning cloth. "Forget the supervisor. Look at this." Olivia showed her the phone screen with a job ad highlighted. "Senior Consultant at Vance Innovations, starting salary $85,000 a year plus benefits." "Chloe, That's almost 4 times what you make here. Chloe felt her stomach twist. She read the ad quickly, pretending it was the first time she saw it, even though she had memorized every word. Olivia, this isn't for me. Look at the requirements. MBA preferred, 5 years consulting experience, fluent in at least 2 languages. You speak Spanish and English perfectly. And you have a business degree from Metropolitan Business School. Olivia interrupted, exasperated. Why do you always put yourself down? Chloe sighed and sat down in a nearby chair. It was time to tell the truth she had kept hidden for so long. Olivia, do you know why I work here? Of course, because... Olivia stopped, realizing she never really asked. Actually, I don't know. Chloe looked at her own hands, still wearing rubber gloves. 5 years ago, I was in my last semester of college. Great grades, internship at a financial consulting firm, a bright future ahead. She began quietly. Then my father had a sudden heart attack. He died immediately. Olivia sat beside her, gently touching her arm. My mother fell into deep depression. She stopped working, stopped eating properly, barely got out of bed. I had to choose, finish college or take care of her. Chloe continued, swallowing tears. I quit everything. 3 classes before graduating. Finding a job without a degree was hard. This job saved me. But you went back and finished the course, right? I did. I took the last classes at night, studying late after work. I graduated 2 years ago, but I've never used the diploma. Chloe smiled sadly. Who would hire someone who dropped out and became a cleaning lady? Olivia was silent for a moment, taking in the revelation. Chloe, you are the smartest person I know. Remember when you helped me with my home budget? Or when you explained to Jose how he could renegotiate his debts? You have a real talent for this. This is different, Olivia. Helping friends is one thing, but what? Being successful? Using the brain God gave you? Olivia stood up, determined. Chloe Miller, you are going to apply for that job, even if I have to tie you to the chair and fill out the application myself. Chloe laughed, despite feeling emotional. Even if I wanted to, look at me. I don't have the right clothes for an interview, no updated resume, no professional references. Stop with that. You have a degree, intelligence, and I have a closet full of clothes I never wear. Olivia grabbed Chloe's phone. Let's do your application now. Olivia, no. No, nothing. What's your email again? Against her own reason, Chloe found herself dictating the information to Olivia, who filled out the online form with impressive determination. Work experience, Olivia murmured. I'll put process optimization specialist at EcoClean Services. It's true. You always find more efficient ways to get the job done. That feels a little dishonest. It's strategic, and under special skills, I'll write self-taught financial data analysis. Olivia kept typing. Also true. You always understand those complicated charts in the newspapers. When Olivia clicked submit, Chloe felt like she had jumped off a cliff. Done. Application sent. Olivia smiled proudly. Now we wait. They'll never call me, Chloe muttered. But inside she felt a mix of fear and hope. 2 days later, Chloe almost dropped the bucket of water when her phone rang with an unknown number. Hello? Miss Miller. This is Olivia Walsh, Executive Secretary at Vance Innovations. Mr. Vance would like to schedule an interview for the senior consultant position. Chloe was silent for 5 full seconds. Miss, are you there? Yes. Yes, I'm here, Chloe stammered. Interview when? Would tomorrow at 2 in the afternoon work? Our office is at Sterling Tower, top floor. Chloe looked around the hallway where she was cleaning, the same hallway she would walk down the next day as a candidate for an executive job. Perfect. I'll be there. Excellent. Bring an updated resume and be ready to discuss business growth strategies. Have a good day. When she hung up, Chloe realized she was shaking. Olivia worked like a guardian angel over the next 24 hours. She lent Chloe an elegant navy blue suit, low-heeled shoes, and a leather purse, helped her print resumes on special paper, and even practiced answers for typical interview questions. Remember, you're not a cleaning lady trying to be a consultant. You're a qualified professional returning to the market, Olivia repeated for the 10th time while fixing Chloe's hair. What if he recognizes me? How? You always wear a cap and uniform at night. Besides, people like Alexander Vance don't even notice cleaning staff. Sad, but true. On the morning of the interview, Chloe looked in the mirror and barely recognized herself. The suit made her look confident and professional. Her hair down framed her face elegantly. "You can do this," she whispered to herself. At exactly 2 o'clock, Chloe was at the reception on the top floor, trying to control her nerves. The place looked exactly as she knew it, but now she saw everything from a completely different perspective. "Miss Miller?" Olivia appeared with a professional smile. "Mr. Vance will see you now." Chloe followed Olivia down the familiar hallway to the office door, where she had hidden so many times. She took a deep breath and went in. Alexander Vance was standing behind the desk, flipping through some papers. When he looked up, Chloe felt the world stop for a second. He was even more impressive up close. Perfectly combed brown hair, intense blue eyes, confident posture, exactly as she had imagined during her nightly observations. "Miss Miller, pleasure to meet you." Alexander extended his hand with a cordial smile. "Please have a seat." Chloe shook his hand, silently thankful she wasn't trembling. "Thank you for this opportunity, Mr. Vance." Alexander sat and opened a folder with her resume. Metropolitan Business School, Business Administration, with a focus on corporate finance. "Excellent grades," he commented, impressed. "But I see a gap of a few years here. Can you explain?" Chloe had rehearsed this answer. "I had to pause my career for family reasons. My mother got sick, and I needed to take care of her. During that time, I kept studying on my own and following the market." "I understand. What made you decide to come back now?" "Honestly, I feel like I have a lot to contribute. I've spent the last few years watching the corporate world from a different point of view, and I believe that gave me unique insights into efficiency and process improvement." Alexander leaned forward, interested. "What kind of insights?" Chloe took a deep breath. It was now or never. "For example, many companies focus only on numbers, but forget the human element. A motivated and valued employee produces 30% more than an unmotivated one. Small changes in the workplace can lead to big savings." "Interesting. Give me a practical example." Chloe quickly thought of something she had noticed during her nights working. Let's say a company has a high turnover problem. Instead of just raising salaries, why not look into whether the problem is communication between departments? Sometimes the solution costs much less than the obvious fix. Alexander made some notes. "And what about growth strategies? How would you approach a company in financial trouble?" Chloe felt she was on familiar ground. "First, I'd identify the bottlenecks. The problem isn't always where it seems. Then I'd look for opportunities to diversify by using existing resources. For example, a traditional company could explore emerging markets or sustainable technologies without big upfront investments." Alexander raised his eyebrows. "Do you have specific knowledge about sustainable markets?" "I've been following the sector's growth. It's a market that grows 23% a year and still has a lot of room for innovation," Chloe replied, remembering the research she'd done for the anonymous notes. "Impressive," Alexander murmured, clearly surprised by the depth of her answers. They talked for another 40 minutes. Chloe spoke about market trends, marketing strategies, resource optimization, and even mentioned some case studies she had read, actually from soap operas. but he didn't need to know that. "Miss Miller, I must admit your answers were refreshing," Alexander finally said. "You have a unique perspective that might be exactly what we need here." Chloe's heart raced. "Would you like to join our team?" "I really—" Chloe stammered, momentarily forgetting her professional posture. Alexander laughed. "Very much so. When can you start?" "Whenever you need me." "How about Monday? Olivia will take care of all the paperwork. Welcome to Vance Innovations, Consultant Miller." When Chloe left the office 20 minutes later, she still couldn't believe what had happened. She waited until she reached the ground floor to call Olivia. "So?" Olivia answered on the first ring. "I got it," Chloe whispered, still in shock. "Olivia, I really got it." On the other end, Olivia shouted so loud, Chloe had to move the phone away from her ear. Walking through the streets of Midtown, Chloe felt her life had changed completely in one afternoon. On Monday, she would be a consultant at Vance Innovations. On Monday, she would work in the same building, but in a completely different world. And Alexander Vance had no idea he had just hired his own anonymous guardian. But deep down, he suspected Chloe might be the woman behind the notes. Monday arrived like a hurricane in Chloe's life. At 8 a.m., she was on the 30th floor of Sterling Tower, wearing Olivia's borrowed suit, trying to look confident. As Olivia led her through the hallways she knew like the back of her hand. "Your office is here." Olivia opened the door to a room with a city view. "Mr. Vance asked you to familiarize yourself with the quarterly reports before the 10 o'clock meeting." Chloe entered and pretended to admire the room, as if seeing it for the first time. In fact, she had cleaned that very office the week before. "Thank you, Olivia. One question. Where's the women's restroom?" "At the end of the hall, to the left," Olivia answered, but frowned slightly. "You know this building well for someone who's never worked here." Chloe felt her blood run cold. "Oh, I came here a few times for meetings when I worked at my previous company." She quickly lied. "This building is well known in the financial district." Olivia seemed to accept the explanation and left. Chloe collapsed into the chair, heart racing. She needed to be more careful. In the first meeting, Chloe surprised everyone by presenting a detailed analysis on resource optimization based on The Perfect Executive, a soap opera she watched religiously with her mother. "The idea is to create many departments that handle multiple tasks," she explained, pointing to the chart she had made. "Each small team can solve specific problems without unnecessary bureaucracy." Alexander watched her with growing interest. "Where did you get this idea, Chloe?" "International case studies," she answered vaguely. "Mexican companies have been using similar systems with great success." "Fascinating. Go on." Chloe spent the week revolutionizing processes with ideas that mixed her real academic knowledge with strategies she'd picked up from years of watching business soap operas. She suggested marketing campaigns based on the heart of business and reorganizations inspired by corporate love. To her surprise, everything worked perfectly. The problem was Chloe couldn't quit her night cleaning job. The consultant's salary was great, but it took 30 days to start. She needed the cleaning money to pay her mother's bills and rent. At 7 p.m. on Wednesday, Chloe was in the 20th floor bathroom changing. She packed the suit in her backpack and put on her eco-clean uniform, tied her hair, put on her cap, and became the invisible cleaner again. "You're going to wear yourself out at this pace," Olivia said, when they met in the supply closet. "Just for a few more weeks," Chloe whispered, "until my first paycheck comes. What if someone recognizes you?" "Who would? During the day, I wear business clothes, hair down, makeup. At night, I'm in uniform and cap. Plus, executives don't notice cleaners." Olivia shook her head, worried. "Just be careful." On Thursday, Alexander was reviewing reports when he noticed something strange. The new consultant's suggestions felt oddly familiar, not the content itself, but the style, the way the ideas were structured. He pulled out the drawer where he kept the anonymous notes and compared them to Chloe's proposals. There were subtle similarities, concern for the human element, indirect references to Latino culture, creative solutions outside the usual. Could it be? He murmured to himself. During the afternoon meeting, Alexander tested a theory. Chloe, you've mentioned Mexican companies several times. Do you have specific experience with that market? Chloe hesitated for a split second. My family is of Latino origin. I grew up following the business culture there through, documentaries and studies. Documentaries? And other cultural information sources. Alexander noticed the hesitation and grew even more curious. On Friday night, Chloe was cleaning Alexander's office when she heard the elevator. Panic. She looked at the clock. 15:15. He never came that late. She quickly put away the supplies and headed for the door, but heard footsteps approaching too fast. She wouldn't get out in time. Desperate, she hid behind the bookcase, holding her breath. Alexander entered, murmuring on the phone. Ethan, I need to check something. I have a theory about our mysterious note-writing consultant. Chloe felt the world collapse. Was he suspicious of her? It might be paranoia, but there are very specific similarities between the notes and the new consultant's proposals. Alexander continued. Both mentioned Latino references. Both follow the innovative thinking pattern. Chloe was sweating. Alexander went to the desk and turned on the computer. I'll compare the handwriting on the notes with the notes she took during meetings. Chloe's heart was pounding so loudly she was sure he could hear it. Alexander spent 15 minutes examining papers and making comparisons. Interesting, he murmured. Very interesting. Finally, he turned off the computer and got ready to leave. Chloe stayed hidden, but when she tried to move for a more comfortable position, she knocked over a paperweight on the shelf. The object hit the floor loudly. Who's there? Alexander asked, turning quickly. Chloe froze. She heard his steps getting closer to the shelf. In desperation, she ran the other way, trying to reach the door. Hey, stop right there! Chloe ran down the hall, but stumbled slightly in her hurry. Something fell from her ear. One of the small pearl earrings Olivia had lent her with the uniform. She managed to reach the elevator and pressed the ground floor button, gasping. Through the glass, she saw Alexander appear in the hall, looking around confused. On Saturday morning, Alexander arrived early at the office. He found the pearl earring in the hallway and examined it carefully. It was delicate, feminine, definitely not belonging to any of the night security guards. He called the cleaning company. I need the list of female employees working on the 30th floor, he told the supervisor. We have 3 employees in that department, sir. Should I send the information? Please do. When Alexander received the list by email, he studied the names. Olivia Martinez, Maria Gonzalez, and Chloe Miller. He stopped at the last name. Chloe Miller, his new consultant. This can't be a coincidence, he murmured, holding the earring. It was time to find out the truth about Chloe Miller once and for all. Alexander put the earring in the drawer next to the anonymous notes. The pieces of the puzzle were coming together, and he had a feeling Monday was going to be a very interesting day. Meanwhile, Chloe spent the weekend in panic, wondering if Alexander had discovered her secret identity, and if she would still have a job on Monday. The double life that had worked perfectly for a week was now hanging by a very thin thread. Genevieve Dubois watched the Vance Innovations numbers with growing irritation from her private office at Apex Solutions. Her sabotage plans should have destroyed the company weeks ago, but instead, the results were the best in years. How is this possible? She muttered, flipping through the financial reports she had gotten through Daniel Kim. According to her information, Alexander should have been desperate, ready to accept any help she offered. The plan was simple: destroy the company from within, appear as the savior, and regain not only Alexander, but control of Vance Innovations. Instead, the company was thriving in an unexplained way. Genevieve picked up the phone and dialed a number. Blackwood Investigations? I need your services. I want a full investigation on Vance Innovations' new consultant, Chloe Miller. I want to know everything about her. Meanwhile, Alexander spent his days watching Chloe with a mix of admiration and growing suspicion. During Monday's meeting, he noticed how well she knew the location of every department. Chloe, could you get the HR department reports? He asked, testing her. Sure, 15th floor, room 1507, right? She replied automatically, then stopped, realizing the mistake. I mean, if that's where human resources usually is. Alexander narrowed his eyes. How do you know the room number? I passed by there yesterday and saw the sign. Chloe stammered, clearly nervous. Later, at lunch, Alexander watched Chloe walk the halls with suspicious familiarity. She quietly greeted some maintenance staff, knew exactly where the water fountains were, and even knew the security guard's name. I must be losing it, he muttered to himself, or something very strange is going on here. On Tuesday, Alexander decided to do another test. During a team meeting, he mentioned, "We need to improve the lighting on the 12th floor. The bulbs are dim." Chloe responded automatically. "The 3 bulbs in the east hallway burned out last week. It would be good to change the women's restroom lights, too. They're flickering." Complete silence in the room. Everyone looked at Chloe. "How do you know that?" Alexander asked, intrigued. Chloe blushed deeply. "I noticed it when I passed by for a meeting with the marketing department." But Alexander knew marketing was on the 20th floor, not the 12th. On Wednesday, Genevieve received the report she had been waiting for. Blackwood Investigations had done a flawless job. "Interesting," she said on the phone, flipping through the photos. Chloe Miller, consultant by day, cleaning lady by night. What valuable information. Genevieve smiled coldly. She finally had the weapon she needed to destroy the consultant who was ruining her plans. That afternoon, she asked Daniel Kim to get Chloe's leaving time. It was time for a private conversation. Chloe was leaving Sterling Tower at 6 p.m. when someone stopped her on the sidewalk. "Chloe Miller?" She turned and saw a blonde woman, elegant, wearing an expensive wool coat and a smile that chilled her blood. "Yes?" "Genevieve Dubois, nice to finally meet you." Genevieve extended her hand with fake friendliness. "Can we talk? It's about your work." Chloe felt a shiver of foreboding. "I don't know who you are, but I'm in a hurry." "I'm someone who knows exactly who you are." Genevieve lowered her voice but kept the smile. "Or rather, I know who you are during the day and who you become at night." Chloe's blood ran cold. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Night cleaning lady posing as a daytime consultant? Please, dear." Genevieve discreetly showed a photo on her phone where Chloe was leaving the building in her cleaning uniform. "I have very complete documentation of your double life." Chloe looked around, checking if anyone was listening. The sidewalk was busy, but no one was paying attention to them. "What do you want?" "To talk. Let's walk." Genevieve started moving, and Chloe followed, with no choice. "I'll get straight to the point, Chloe. You're messing up my plans," Genevieve said quietly but firmly. "Alexander and I have history, and your presence is making things complicated." "What history?" "We used to be engaged, and will be again, once I clear some obstacles out of the way." Genevieve stopped in front of a diner. "You're one of those obstacles." Chloe felt anger rising in her chest. I have nothing to do with your personal life. Yes, you do. Alexander is way too impressed with you. This can't keep going. Genevieve turned to face her directly. So, here's my offer. You quit the consultant position tomorrow, or Alexander will find out that his brilliant employee is actually a line-cleaning lady. You can't do that. I can and I will. Genevieve showed more photos on her phone. I have you arriving as a cleaner, leaving as an executive, talking to other cleaning staff. I even have pictures of you hiding in his office last Friday. Chloe felt the world collapse. Genevieve knew everything. What exactly do you want? For you to disappear. Simple as that. Genevieve put away her phone. Make up an excuse, quit, and vanish from Alexander's life. In exchange, your little secret stays safe. And if I don't? Genevieve laughed coldly. Then tomorrow morning, Alexander will get an envelope with all these photos and a detailed explanation of how you fooled him. I wonder how he'll react when he finds out he was manipulated by a servant. Chloe clenched her fists. You're despicable, unpractical. Alexander deserves someone from his social class, not a cleaner pretending to be an executive. Genevieve adjusted her purse. You have until noon tomorrow to decide. Quit or exposure. Choose wisely. Genevieve walked away, leaving Chloe standing on the sidewalk, trembling with anger and fear. That night, Alexander stayed late in the office, trying to sort out his thoughts. He took the pearl earring he had found and examined it again. Am I going crazy? He murmured to himself. Or are my consultant and my mysterious cleaner really the same person? He remembered all the signs, her intimate knowledge of the building, the similar cultural references in the notes and reports, the way she avoided certain questions about her past. But if it was true, why would she lie? And more importantly, would that change the exceptional work she was doing? Alexander put the earring in the drawer. Whatever his suspicions, Chloe had transformed the company. Maybe it was time to confront her directly and find out the truth. But first, he needed to be sure. Meanwhile, Chloe spent the night sleepless, knowing she had less than 18 hours to make the hardest decision of her life. Save her job or protect her secret. Alexander spent the whole day wrestling with his suspicions about Chloe. Every interaction seemed to confirm his theory. She knew the building like no one else, knew details only someone working there every night could know. After Genevieve's ultimatum, he had to find out the truth before it was too late. At 5 p.m., Alexander announced he would leave early, but instead hid in the executive bathroom until he was sure everyone had left. Then he quietly returned to his office and positioned himself behind the bookcase, where he had a clear view of the room without being seen. If Chloe really was the mysterious cleaner, she would show up. At 10 p.m., Chloe arrived at Sterling Tower with a heavy heart. She had until noon the next day to decide. Quit or be exposed by Genevieve. She put on the eco-clean uniform mechanically, tied her hair back, and grabbed her supplies. Maybe this would be her last night as a cleaner. Ironically, it could also be her last morning as a consultant. When she reached the 30th floor, Chloe took a deep breath. That office had changed her life in so many ways. It all started here, with her secret notes. She entered Alexander's office and began cleaning, lost in thoughts about how she would explain her sudden departure. So it really was you. Chloe froze. Alexander's calm voice came from behind the bookcase. The cleaning cart crashed to the floor from her hands. She slowly turned and saw him step out of the shadows, but his expression was not anger. It was genuine curiosity. Mr. Vance, I can explain. I'm sure you can. Alexander walked toward her, but kept a respectful distance. The question is, why didn't you tell me? Chloe felt tears burning her eyes. Because I knew I'd lose everything. The job, your trust, my credibility. Please have a seat, Alexander said, pointing to the chairs near the window. Let's talk. For real this time. Chloe hesitated, still in shock from being caught. You don't need to be afraid. I just want to understand. She sat on the edge of the chair, nervous. Alexander settled into the seat across from her, waiting. Was it you who left the notes? Chloe nodded silently. Why? Because I overheard your conversation that first night. You seemed so worried, so lost. And I knew I could help, she said, stumbling over the words. I know it sounds crazy, but I learned a lot about business watching soap operas with my mom, and I have a degree in business administration. So your degree is real? Yes, it is. Chloe told the whole story. Her father's death, her mother's depression, how she had to pause her career to take care of her family, how she went back to finish her degree years later, but never managed to use it. I needed both jobs to pay Mom's bills and the rent. The consultant's salary is great, but it takes 30 days to start. Alexander listened quietly, seeing the woman in front of him in a completely new light. You saved my company twice, he said at last. Once as an anonymous advisor, and once as the official consultant. I didn't save anything, I just helped a little. Chloe, in 6 weeks you transformed Vance Innovations from a company in crisis into a market leader. That's not helping a little. Alexander leaned forward. Why were you so afraid to tell me the truth? Because people like you don't hire people like me. I'm a cleaner, Mr. Vance. I come from a poor family, live in a tiny apartment in Astoria. My mother cleans houses when she's healthy enough. Chloe wiped her tears. You're the CEO of a multinational company. We come from different worlds. You think I care about that? You should. Your board of directors certainly does. Alexander was silent for a moment, processing everything. You know what impresses me the most? He finally said. It's not just your intelligence or brilliant ideas, it's your courage. Working 2 jobs, supporting your mother, managing to graduate despite everything. That takes a strength that few executives I know have. Chloe looked at him, surprised. You don't see me as a fraud? Fraud? Alexander laughed softly. Chloe, you are the most authentic person I've ever met. Yes, you lied about your job, but everything you did was out of necessity and love for your family. That's not fraud. That's survival. They talked for hours. Alexander wanted to know about her education, her dreams, how she had developed her business knowledge through soap operas. Chloe shared about studying late at night after work, about how her mother inspired her, even in the hardest moments. You're extraordinary, Alexander said, as the clock hit 2 in the morning. Not for being a consultant or a cleaner, but for being you. Chloe felt something change between them. The conversation had broken down all professional barriers. What happens now? She asked. Now you stop hiding. Stop being afraid of who you are. Alexander stood up. And we keep working together to make Vance Innovations even better. And the night job? When your first paycheck arrives, you decide if you still need it. But I won't force you to choose. Chloe stood too, feeling a huge weight lift from her shoulders. Thank you for understanding. Thank you for saving me, even when I didn't know it. They stayed there in the quiet office, looking at each other with a new mutual understanding. Chloe walked down the hall with a terrible feeling in her chest. When she reached the conference room on the 25th floor, she found 5 men in suits gathered around a mahogany table, all with stern expressions. Arthur Caldwell, the chairman of the board, stood at the head of the table. Next to him, Genevieve Dubois smiled with false sympathy. Miss Miller, please have a seat, Arthur said coldly. Chloe sat down, her heart racing. Alexander was not in the room. "We have received very troubling information about your professional conduct." Arthur began opening a folder. "Miss Dubois has brought evidence that you deliberately deceived this company about your identity and qualifications." Genevieve stood up, taking control of the presentation. "Gentlemen, as you can see from these photographs," she handed out copies of the pictures she had taken, "Miss Miller works as a night cleaner in this very building. She used this position to spy on confidential conversations and then passed herself off as a qualified consultant." "That's not true," Chloe protested. "I have a degree in business administration. My qualifications are real." "Oh yes, the degree," Genevieve smiled maliciously, "obtained after years working as a servant. And tell me, Miss Miller, did you mention your night job during the interview?" Chloe lowered her head. "No, I didn't mention it, but—" "So, you admit you lied by omission," Arthur interrupted. "You used insider information gained through espionage to pose as a business expert." "It wasn't espionage. I overheard a conversation by chance and wanted to help." "Help?" Genevieve laughed. "Or take advantage of an opportunity to infiltrate a place you don't belong." Richard Lee, one of the older directors, shook his head disapprovingly. "This is unacceptable. A cleaning staff member pretending to be an executive consultant. What kind of message does that send to our clients and investors?" "She made a fool of us," added Mark Davis, another director. "Imagine if this leaks to the press. We'll be the laughingstock of Wall Street." Chloe tried to defend herself. "My work speaks for itself. The results I brought to the company are real, regardless of my night job." "Results based on cheating," Genevieve shot back. "You had privileged access to confidential information. Anyone could come up with solutions with that unfair advantage." "Where is Mr. Vance?" Chloe asked desperately. "He knows my situation and approves of my work." Arthur and the other directors exchanged meaningful looks. "Mr. Vance is emotionally involved in this matter," Arthur said diplomatically. "Therefore, the board will make this decision." At that moment, Alexander burst into the room. "Sorry for being late. What's this meeting about?" Genevieve smiled triumphantly. "We were discussing Ms. Miller's situation, Alexander. Her true identity has finally come to light." Alexander looked at Chloe, who was visibly shaken, then at the board. "Chloe is an exceptional employee. Her results have transformed our company." "Alexander, she's a cleaner who pretended to be a consultant," Arthur said firmly. "That is unacceptable. She has a degree from Metropolitan Business School. Her qualifications are legitimate." "Obtained after years working in janitorial services," Richard Lee interrupted, "and she lied about her current status." Alexander tried to argue. "Chloe revolutionized our processes, increased our efficiency by 40%, and created strategies that made us market leaders. Doesn't that count for anything?" "It counts, but it doesn't justify dishonesty." Arthur was firm. "Trust is fundamental in business, Alexander. How can we trust someone who deceived us from day one?" Genevieve took advantage of the moment. "Alexander, I understand your reluctance to admit you were deceived. But think about Vance Innovations' reputation. Our investors will not tolerate knowing a cleaner had access to strategic information." "She's not just a cleaner," Alexander raised his voice, frustrated. "But that's what she is at night, while pretending to be an executive by day," Arthur concluded. "This is unacceptable." After a heated 30-minute discussion, the board made its decision. "Ms. Miller," Arthur formally announced, "you are suspended from your duties while we investigate the extent of your actions. Depending on what we find, this may result in immediate termination." Chloe felt tears welling up in her eyes. "For how long?" "Until further notice. You may leave." Chloe stood up with dignity despite the humiliation. "Gentlemen, I'm sorry you see my background as a flaw, but I do not regret anything I did to improve this company." She left the room holding her head high, but Alexander could see she was devastated. "This is a mistake," Alexander told the board after Chloe left. "It's a necessary decision," Arthur replied. "And Alexander, I recommend you stay out of this. Your judgment is clearly compromised." That night, Chloe returned to her cleaning job, now only as an eco-clean employee. Olivia found her in the locker room, visibly upset. "What happened? You seemed so happy this morning." Chloe told her friend everything, and Olivia was outraged. "They can't do this. You proved your worth." "They did and they can," Chloe sighed. "Maybe they're right. Maybe I should never have dreamed so big." Meanwhile, Alexander spent the night in his office, carefully gathering all the successes Chloe had brought to the company. Sales reports, efficiency analyses, client feedback, everything showed she had transformed Vance Innovations. He called Ethan, his personal lawyer. "I need help overturning an unfair board decision. I have an employee being targeted because of class prejudice." Alexander was determined to fight for Chloe, even if it cost him his position at the company. 3 days after Chloe's suspension, Vance Innovations faced its biggest crisis in years. Alexander was in an emergency meeting with the board when Marcus, his vice president, rushed in looking pale. "Alexander, we need to talk, now." "Marcus, we're in a meeting. It's about the Horizon Enterprises contract. They canceled." The silence in the room was deafening. The Horizon Enterprises contract was worth $50 million and accounted for 20% of the company's annual revenue. "How did they cancel?" Arthur Caldwell stood up alarmed. Marcus handed out copies of an email to everyone at the table. "We got this an hour ago. They claim our proposal was compromised and that they found a suspiciously similar offer from a competitor." Alexander read the email, feeling his stomach churn. The message was clear. Someone had leaked confidential information to the competition. "Who else had access to the details of this contract?" he asked. "Only the senior team and—" Marcus hesitated. "And who?" "Daniel Kim from IT. He set up the security system for the files." Alexander immediately remembered the anonymous note from Chloe warning him about Daniel Kim. She had tried to alert him weeks earlier. "Call Daniel in for an immediate meeting," he ordered. 20 minutes later, Daniel Kim was in the conference room, visibly nervous. Alexander got straight to the point. "Daniel, I need you to be honest with me. Has anyone had unauthorized access to the Horizon Enterprises files?" Daniel started sweating. "Not that I know of, sir. We have records of system access, outside working hours last week, from your workstation. Sometimes I work late." Alexander placed a recording on the table. Genevieve had been careless during a call to Daniel, which was intercepted by security. "Daniel, do you know Genevieve Dubois?" The man broke down. She said it was just public information, that it wouldn't hurt anyone." "You sold confidential information to our competitor," Alexander said coldly. "That's corporate crime." Daniel confessed everything. How Genevieve blackmailed him, how he gave information about multiple contracts, how she planned to destroy Vance Innovations for personal revenge. After security took Daniel away, Alexander was left alone in his office, desperate. The company was collapsing, and the only person who had always found solutions wasn't there anymore. Chloe had tried to warn him about all of this. At 9 p.m., Alexander drove to Astoria, looking for the address he got from HR records. He found a modest apartment building and climbed to the 3rd floor. He knocked on apartment 3B. Chloe opened the door wearing jeans and a simple t-shirt, her hair tied back in a ponytail. When she saw Alexander, her expression closed up. "Mr. Vance, what are you doing here?" "I need to talk to you. Please. We have nothing to talk about. You let the board humiliate me and didn't say a word. Chloe, I tried to defend you." Tried? She laughed bitterly. You were there when they called me a lying opportunist, and you didn't stand up for me properly. Alexander hung his head. You're right. I failed you. But now I need your help. For what? The company is collapsing. Genevieves sabotaged the Horizon Enterprises contract. Daniel Kim confessed everything. Without that contract, we'll have to lay off 300 employees. Chloe stared at him for a long moment. And why is that my problem? According to the board, I'm just a lying cleaning lady. You're the only person who has always found solutions when no one else could, Alexander said, his voice full of desperation. I need you. The company needs you. Those 300 families need you. Chloe hesitated, seeing the sincerity in his eyes. Come in, she finally said. The apartment was small but cozy. Alexander noticed pictures of Chloe with an older woman, her mother, and framed diplomas on the wall. My mom is sleeping, Chloe explained quietly. She's not feeling well. They sat at the kitchen table where Alexander explained the whole situation. Genevieves sabotage, the lost contract, the company's critical financial state. Genevieve planned everything perfectly, he concluded. She has inside information on all our next moves. Chloe was silent for a few minutes, processing the information. Are you sure she's selling information to Apex Solutions? Absolutely. Daniel confirmed it. Chloe got up and went to a shelf full of soap opera DVDs. Remember the soap opera Perfect Revenge? No. The main character found out her ex-husband was sabotaging her company. She pretended to give up everything, but was actually setting a trap. Chloe grabbed a DVD and showed the cover. She made him think he'd won, only to expose all his crimes publicly. Alexander frowned. What are you suggesting? That we use Genevieve's own arrogance against her, Chloe said, getting excited as her strategic mind kicked in. She thinks she's already won. Let's make her believe you're desperate and willing to do anything. How? Chloe explained a detailed plan. Alexander would pretend to be willing to sell part of the company to Genevieve in exchange for her saving Vance Innovations. During negotiations, they'd record Genevieve confessing her crimes. But for that to work, we need solid proof she stole information, and we have to get the Horizon Enterprises contract back. How will we do that? Chloe smiled for the first time that night. Remember episode 73 of The Empire of Dreams? The main character proved the competitors stole her ideas by showing they didn't really understand the project they copied. Alexander began to understand. You want us to create such a complex technical presentation that only someone who truly developed the project can answer the questions? Exactly. And we'll do it tomorrow, in front of the Horizon Enterprises executives. They spent the night developing the plan. Chloe created a recovery strategy based on 3 different soap operas, but used her real business knowledge to make it practical. When the sun rose, they had a solid plan, not only to save the company, but also to expose Genevieve once and for all. Chloe, Alexander said, as she walked him to the door. Thank you for helping me, even after everything. I'm not doing this for you, she replied. I'm doing it for the 300 families who could lose their jobs because of one woman's personal revenge. Alexander nodded, understanding. When this is all over, I'll make sure the board recognizes your value. First, we save the company, Chloe said. Then we think about the rest. But inside, she knew that even if she saved Vance Innovations again, she might never get her position back. The next morning, Alexander arrived at the office at 6 a.m. to put their plan into action. First, he needed to set the stage for the trap that would expose Genevieve. He called Marcus. Arrange an emergency meeting with the Horizon Enterprises executives for today at 2 p.m. Tell them we have a last-minute proposal that could save the contract. Alexander, they already canceled. Why would they come back? Because we're offering something the competition can't. A custom solution only we can deliver. At 10 a.m., Chloe arrived quietly through the service entrance. Olivia had helped her with a simple disguise: sunglasses, a cap, and casual clothes. She went straight to Alexander's office. "All set?" she asked. "The meeting with Horizon Enterprises is scheduled," and Genevieve took the bait. Alexander showed a message on his phone. "She'll be here at 3 to discuss a partnership that could save Vance Innovations." Chloe smiled. The first part of the plan was working. And the recording system. Ethan installed equipment in both rooms. Everything said will be recorded. They spent the next hours fine-tuning the presentation for Horizon Enterprises. Chloe had created such a detailed and technical implementation strategy that only someone who truly understood the original project could answer the specific questions. "If Apex Solutions really stole our project," Chloe explained, "they'll only have surface-level information. They won't be able to explain the technical details of the implementation." At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the executives from Horizon Enterprises arrived: CEO Benjamin Thorne, COO Emily Park, and technical consultant Samuel Green. "Gentlemen," Alexander began the presentation, "I know you canceled the contract with us, but we would like to present a completely new approach." Chloe, identified only as an implementation specialist, started her presentation. She explained a logistics optimization system based on predictive analysis and real-time data integration. "Our method uses adaptive algorithms that adjust to Horizon Enterprises' specific seasonal variations," Chloe explained, showing complex charts. "This results in a 23% savings in operating costs during the first year." Benjamin Thorne leaned forward, interested. "Apex Solutions offered us something similar, but not with this level of detail. How did you come up with these numbers?" Chloe smiled inwardly. It was exactly the question she expected. "We based our analysis on 3 unique Horizon Enterprises factors: your seasonal distribution pattern, the specific geography of your distribution centers, and employee turnover rates. These variables create a custom algorithm no competitor can copy without this inside data." Emily Park asked several highly technical specific questions. Chloe answered them all precisely, showing deep knowledge not just of the project, but of Horizon Enterprises itself. "Impressive," muttered Samuel Green. "Apex's proposal didn't have even half this detail." "Because they only copied the surface," Alexander said. "They didn't have access to the real project development." After 2 hours of presentation and questions, Benjamin Thorne concluded, "It's clear you developed a genuinely innovative solution. Apex gave us a simplified version, which we now see is just a poor copy. We want to reactivate our contract with Vance Innovations." At 3:15, Genevieve Dubois arrived at Alexander's office, confident and elegant. "Alexander, dear, I heard things aren't going well," she said, with false sympathy. "Maybe it's time to accept my help." "Genevieve, I have to admit you were right. The situation is critical. I warned you about your cleaning lady consultant, but don't worry, we can fix this together," Genevieve said, sitting down satisfied. "I'm ready to invest in Vance Innovations and get it back on track." "What kind of investment?" "I'll buy 40% of the company at a fair price. In return, I bring my expertise and contacts to recover the lost contracts." Alexander pretended to consider the offer. "How can I be sure you can really help us?" Genevieve couldn't resist bragging. "Alexander, I orchestrated this whole situation. The contracts you lost, it was all planned. Daniel Kim has been working for me for months. I have information on all your next moves." "You sabotaged my company?" "I sabotaged a company that should have been mine since we got engaged." Genevieve stood proudly. "But now I can fix everything. I already have the Horizon Enterprises and Sterling Holdings contracts signed with Apex. I can transfer them back to you for a price." Alexander stood up as well. "And if I refuse your offer?" "Then Vance Innovations will fail in 6 months. I'm sure of it, because I planned its destruction myself." Genevieve smiled coldly. "Choose, Alexander. Accept my partnership, or lose everything." At that moment, Ethan entered the room with 2 FBI agents. "Genevieve Dubois, you are under arrest for industrial espionage, corporate sabotage, and extortion," the lead agent announced. Genevieve turned pale. "This is absurd. You can't prove anything." Alexander picked up a recorder from the desk. "Actually, we just recorded your full confession." As Genevieve was taken away in handcuffs, the story leaked to the press. Within hours, social media was buzzing about the vengeful ex-fiancé who tried to destroy a company out of jealousy. But the real surprise came when the true story emerged: how a cleaning lady discovered the sabotage and saved the company twice. The hashtag #CleaningLadyGenius began trending. Journalists wanted to interview Chloe. The story spread nationwide. The woman who cleaned offices at night and saved companies by day. The next day, Alexander called an emergency board meeting. "Gentlemen," he began, placing a stack of documents on the table, "I need to share some facts about Chloe Miller." Arthur Caldwell sighed. "Alexander, we already made our decision about the cleaning lady." "The cleaning lady who saved our company twice," Alexander interrupted. "And now she's nationally recognized as a business genius." Alexander presented impressive numbers: a 47% increase in operational efficiency, 32% growth in sales, 28% reduction in operating costs, and now the recovery of contracts worth $70 million. "Also," he continued, "the positive buzz on social media brought a 15% rise in our stock value just today." Richard Lee looked over the numbers, impressed. "These results are extraordinary." "These are the results of Chloe Miller's work, the woman you suspended out of prejudice," Alexander said firmly. Mark Davis shook his head. "Alexander, even with these results, she still lied about her identity. She left out one detail because she knew you'd be biased, and you were right." Alexander stood up. "Gentlemen, we have 2 options. Recognize Chloe's exceptional talent and bring her back with the promotion she deserves, or explain to the national press why we fired the genius cleaning lady who saved our company." The silence in the room was telling. Arthur sighed deeply. "All right, Alexander. What's your proposal?" The boardroom stayed quiet for several long seconds after Alexander laid out his plan. Arthur looked down at the papers in front of him, then at the other directors. "You're suggesting we promote an employee who withheld crucial information during hiring?" "I'm suggesting we recognize the exceptional talent of someone who saved our company twice and is now nationally known as a business genius," Alexander replied firmly. Richard Lee flipped through the financial reports. "The numbers don't lie. 47% increase in efficiency, 30% sales growth. And don't forget the stock rise," Marcus added. 15% in one day. Investors are thrilled with the story of the genius cleaning lady." Mark Davis sighed. "Still, it sets a dangerous precedent. If we promote someone who lied in the interview—" "She didn't lie about her qualifications," Alexander interrupted. "She has a business degree from Metropolitan Business School. Her strategies are based on real knowledge. She just didn't say she worked as a cleaning lady at night out of financial need." "I want to create a new department, Innovation Directorate, focused on creative business solutions, out-of-the-box thinking, and unconventional process optimization. Chloe would be the director." "Director?" Richard Lee raised his eyebrows. "That's quite a leap." "Based on considerable results," Alexander shot back. "Besides, We need to capitalize on the positive media attention. Chloe Miller has become a symbol of overcoming odds and innovation. Firing her would be a PR disaster. The directors exchanged looks. Ethan showed his tablet. Look at this. Vance Innovations, the company that recognizes talent where others see only employees. That's the headline in today's New York Business Daily. And here, Ethan flipped the screen. How a cleaning lady revolutionized a multinational. Lessons in inclusive leadership. Global Business Insights wants to do a case study on our company. Arthur sighed deeply. All right, but with conditions. 6-month probation period, direct supervision, and full transparency about her current situation. Alexander smiled. I accept all conditions. An hour later, Alexander stood outside Chloe's apartment in Astoria. When she opened the door, she looked like she hadn't slept much. Alexander, what are you doing here? I came with good news. Can I come in? Chloe led him to the living room where her mother, Eleanor, was watching TV. Mom, this is Alexander Vance, my former boss. Mrs. Eleanor Miller smiled warmly. Oh, the famous CEO. Chloe talks a lot about you. Nice to meet you, Mrs. Miller. Call me Eleanor. Want some coffee? I just made some. While Eleanor prepared the coffee, Alexander and Chloe sat on the sofa. So, what's the good news? The board just approved your reinstatement with a promotion. Chloe's eyes widened. Promotion? Innovation Director. New department focused on creative business solutions. Salary of $120,000 a year, plus benefits. Chloe was silent for a moment, processing the news. Director? Me? You deserve it, Chloe. More than deserve it. Eleanor came back with the coffee, noticing the tension. Did something good happen? Mom, Chloe said, still shocked. They offered me a promotion to director. Eleanor shouted with joy and hugged her daughter. My girl, I always knew you'd go far. After Eleanor went to rest, Alexander and Chloe stayed alone on the apartment balcony, watching the streets of Astoria below. Thank you, Chloe said softly, for believing in me when no one else did. No need to thank me. You proved your worth on your own. They stayed in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Chloe, can I ask you a personal question? Of course. Why did you risk everything by leaving those anonymous notes? You could have just done your cleaning job, and that would be it. Chloe smiled sadly. Because I saw you that night, so worried, so lost, and I thought, I can help. I just couldn't ignore it. Even knowing you might get in trouble? Especially because of that. My mother always taught me that when you can help someone, you should, no matter the risk. Alexander looked at her with a new intensity. Chloe, I need to tell you something. What? During all these weeks, working with you, discovering who you really are, I fell in love. Chloe felt her heart race. Alexander, not just because you're a brilliant consultant or a brave cleaning lady. I fell in love with you for your intelligence, your determination, your genuine kindness. But we come from different worlds. We're from worlds that complete each other. Alexander moved closer. You taught me that value isn't about social status, it's about character. He gently touched her face. Can I kiss you? Chloe nodded, and when their lips met, she felt all the struggles were worth it. When they parted, Chloe rested her head on Alexander's shoulder. There's one thing I need to tell you about accepting the promotion. What? I'm keeping my night job. Alexander stepped back, surprised. Why? Now you can support yourself just fine on the director's salary. It's not about money, Chloe explained. It's about identity. I don't want to forget where I came from. I want to stay connected to the people who really keep the company running. You want to work 16 hours a day? I want to work some nights a week, to remind myself that every decision I make as director affects real people with real dreams and needs. Alexander kissed her again. That's why I love you. You never lose sight of what really matters. And you? Don't you mind dating a director who's also a cleaning lady? Mind dating the most extraordinary woman I've ever met? Never. They laughed together, watching the city lights come on in the distance. You know the best part of all this? Chloe asked. What? Tomorrow, I'll be able to help other people like me. Talented people who just need a chance. Alexander smiled, knowing he'd found not just the woman of his life, but the perfect partner to turn Vance Innovations into something much bigger than just a company. 6 months after becoming innovation director, Chloe was in her new office on the 28th floor, working on what would become her most ambitious project, the Hidden Talents program. Olivia, I need your help, she said to her friend, now working as special assistant in the innovation department. Sure, what do you have in mind? Chloe pointed to a pile of resumes on the desk. I want to identify employees in operational roles who have potential to grow within the company, people like me, who might have hidden qualifications or untapped talents. Olivia smiled. Like a human treasure hunt? Exactly. We'll start with cleaning, maintenance, security, and other support departments. Chloe had created an evaluation system beyond traditional resumes, informal interviews, practical reasoning tests, and observing daily work behavior. The first candidate was Carlos Martinez, a night security guard who had caught her attention by always organizing detailed reports about small issues he noticed during his rounds. Carlos, I saw your reports on energy efficiency on the upper floors, Chloe said during the informal interview. How did you learn about that? I study engineering at night, Ms. Miller. I'm not finished yet, but I like applying what I learned to work. What if I offered you a position in the facilities management department? Carlos's eyes widened. Would that be possible? With the Hidden Talents program, anything is possible. In 3 months, Chloe had identified 12 employees with exceptional potential. A cleaning lady who spoke 4 languages and could work in international relations. A doorman with an MBA who lost his previous job in the crisis and could now return to finance. A cafeteria worker who created her own very efficient inventory management system. The story of the program leaked to the press when Sarah Kim, a former cleaning lady promoted to marketing analyst, created an advertising campaign that boosted sales by 20% in the first quarter. Vance Innovations finds talent where others see only employees. Alexander read the Business Insider headline to Chloe. You're starting a revolution. I'm just doing what someone did for me, Chloe replied, though inside she knew she was changing lives. Social media exploded with inspiring stories. Hidden Talents became a worldwide trending topic. Employees from companies all over the world started sharing their own stories of hidden talents. The real turning point came when Alexander suggested they develop a formal methodology based on Chloe's unique approach. Your strategies work, but we need to systematize them so other companies can apply them, he said during a meeting. What do you mean? A management method, something we can teach, license, expand. Chloe had an idea. What if we create something based on storytelling? I've been using soap opera stories for years to explain complex concepts. Alexander got excited. You could turn that into a corporate training system. I can try. Chloe spent weeks developing what she called clean business, a methodology that used simple, familiar stories to teach complex management concepts. The first module was leadership through characters, using soap opera plots to explain different leadership styles. Look at Ricardo Dominguez from The Perfect Boss, Chloe explained to a room full of executives. He starts out authoritarian, but learns that true leadership comes from mutual trust. It perfectly shows the shift from command and control to collaborative leadership. The executives smiled, but paid close attention. The stories made abstract ideas tangible and memorable. The second module was conflict resolution through plots, how soap opera characters solve complex disputes. In corporate heart, when two family businesses fight over inheritance, the solution comes through a merger that benefits both. That teaches us about win-win solutions in corporate conflicts. Within 6 months, the clean business methodology was being tested in 5 partner companies. The results were impressive. 30% improvement in employee retention, 40% increase in worker satisfaction, and 29% growth in productivity. Metropolitan Business School invited Chloe to speak on innovation through popular narratives. Bayview University created a case study on Vance innovations. Techton University wanted to research how simple stories could simplify complex management concepts. "Chloe, do you realize what's happening?" Alexander said one night, as they dined at their favorite restaurant in Williamsburg. "What? You didn't just save a company, you're changing how the corporate world thinks about talent and leadership." Chloe smiled, but her expression grew thoughtful. "Sometimes I still can't believe it. A year ago, I was just a cleaning lady watching soap operas with my mother. And now, you're one of the most influential executives in New York. You know what I'm proudest of?" "What?" "The letters I get. People from all over the world saying my story inspired them not to give up on their dreams." Alexander took her hand. "You deserve all that recognition. It's not about me. It's about showing that talent exists everywhere. We just have to know where to look." 9 months after launching the Hidden Talents program, Vance Innovations had become the most sought-after company to work for in New York. The waiting list for the Clean Business program had over 200 companies. Chloe created a nonprofit foundation to bring the program to small businesses that couldn't afford expensive consulting. Every month, she still worked a few nights as a volunteer cleaning lady at shelters and community organizations. "Why do you still do that?" Alexander asked, watching her get ready for a night of volunteer work. "Because I can't forget. There are thousands of Chloes out there, just waiting for a chance." Alexander kissed her. "That's why I love you more every day." 1 year after creating the Hidden Talents program, Chloe stood on the stage of the Grand Hyatt Ballroom in Midtown, receiving the Executive of the Year award from the National Business Leadership Association. "It's an honor to be here today," she said into the microphone, holding the golden trophy. "But this award isn't just mine. It belongs to all the Vance Innovations employees who proved that talent has no social class, no origin, no uniform." The audience of 500 executives stood and applauded. In the front row, Alexander watched her proudly, next to Eleanor Miller, who was crying with emotion watching her daughter shine on stage. 2 years ago, I was cleaning this very hotel during the night," Chloe continued. "I dreamed of one day being on the other side as a guest. I never imagined I'd be here as an honoree." The cameras from CNN and Bloomberg captured every word. Chloe's story had become an international phenomenon. "I want to dedicate this award to all the people who work tirelessly in jobs society calls lowly, but who actually support our entire economy. You may be invisible, but you are essential." The applause was deafening. "And I especially want to thank Alexander Vance, CEO of Vance Innovations, who had the courage to look beyond appearances and see that leadership can come from anywhere." Chloe paused, searching for Alexander in the crowd. "Alexander, you changed my life by believing in me when I didn't even believe in myself." That's when Alexander stood up from his table and started walking toward the stage. Chloe was confused for a moment. "Alexander, what are you doing?" He climbed the steps to the stage, took another microphone, and stood beside her. "Chloe Miller," he said, his voice echoing through the hall. "You cleaned my life of everything that didn't matter and filled it with true love." The audience murmured, sensing something special was happening. Alexander knelt on the stage, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. "You taught me that a person's worth isn't in what they do, but in who they are. Will you marry me?" Chloe covered her face with her hands, tears streaming freely. "Alexander, in front of everyone, I want the whole world to know I love the most extraordinary woman I've ever met," he said, opening the box to reveal a simple, elegant diamond ring. "Chloe, will you be my wife?" "Yes," she shouted without hesitation. "Yes, I will." The grand ballroom exploded in applause and cheers. Cameras flashed non-stop. Eleanor Miller wept uncontrollably in the front row, comforted by Olivia. Alexander slipped the ring onto Chloe's finger and kissed her passionately on stage, while 500 executives celebrated the most romantic moment they had ever witnessed at an award ceremony. 6 months later, Millennium Park was decorated like a fairy tale for Chloe and Alexander's wedding. They had chosen Bow Bridge as the setting, with views of the lake and midtown skyline behind them. Chloe wore a simple white silk dress, elegant but without extravagance, making her look like a princess. Alexander was flawless in a classic tuxedo, but his eyes shone brighter than any fine fabric. "Dear friends," said the officiant, "we are gathered here not only to celebrate the union of Chloe and Alexander, but also a story that proves true love knows no social barriers." In the audience were Vance Innovations employees, from executives to the cleaning staff. Carlos Martinez, now facility supervisor, sat in the front row next to Sarah Kim, who had become marketing director. "Alexander," Chloe said during the vows she had written, "you taught me that dreams don't expire, that it's never too late to start over, to believe, to love." "Chloe," Alexander replied, "you showed me that true leadership doesn't come from titles or positions, but from the courage to do what's right. I promise to support you always, in any challenge we choose to face together." When the officiant declared them husband and wife, the pigeons in the park seemed to celebrate too, flying in circles above the couple as they kissed. 3 months after the wedding, Chloe was at her desk in the office, now vice president of innovation at Vance Innovations, when she got a call that would change everything again. "Hello, Chloe. This is Brenda Hayes from Zenith Books. Your literary agent sent us your book manuscript. We're interested in publishing it." Chloe held the phone with both hands. "You want to publish my book? From cleaning lady to executive leadership lessons I learned while cleaning offices?" "Exactly. It's exactly the kind of inspirational story the world needs right now." "And you think it will sell?" Brenda laughed. "Chloe, we already have pre-orders from 15 different countries. We believe it will be an international bestseller." After hanging up, Chloe placed her hand on her belly, where a little life had been growing for 3 months. "Did you hear that, baby?" she whispered. "Your mommy is going to be a famous author." Alexander appeared in the office doorway. "Who are you talking to?" "To our daughter, telling her she's going to be born into a world where people know genius can come from anywhere." Alexander kissed her, placing his hand gently over her belly. "And she will grow up knowing her mother changed the corporate world forever." 1 year later, Chloe was on Morning America, promoting her book that had spent 50 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. "Chloe," the host asked, "what is the main lesson you want people to take from your story?" "That talent doesn't have an address, a last name, or a social class," Chloe replied, holding her 6-month-old daughter in her arms. "If we give the right people opportunities, they will surprise the world." Vance Innovations had become a global model for corporate inclusion. Companies from all over the world sent executives to learn the clean business methodology. The Hidden Talents program had been implemented in more than 200 companies across 40 countries. "And what comes next?" the host asked. Chloe looked at Alexander, who was smiling proudly in the audience. "We will keep proving that when we give people a chance to shine, they transform not only their own lives, but the whole world." Alexander stood up, walked over to Chloe, hugged her, and kissed her. What did you think of Chloe and Alexander's story? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Rate this story from 0 to 10. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to follow all our stories. And don't forget to watch more exciting stories by clicking here on the end screen.